get the whole story.
Welcome back. You're watching Inside Politics. In case you're just joining us, good afternoon and happy Easter. We're here to dissect the latest political developments that have played out in the course of the week. And speaking of the week, just this week we saw Senegal produce Africa's youngest leader. I think he's 44 years of age, the president-elect right there, Baye. Now in Kenya, we have a youthful team of opposition leaders where Babu Owino, who is the Embakasi Member of Parliament, seems to be leading from the front. They refer to themselves as Team Ground. And Emmanuel Toh had a conversation with Babu just to get a feel of what exactly is their intention. Listen in.
Well, thank you very much. We're now joined by the Member of Parliament for Embakasi East, Babu Owino, a member who is a member of a new team that has just been formed. It's called Team Ground. And I just want to know how the ground is from his new outfit that is there to take over the opposition role now that Raila Odinga is angling for the AU job. Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa. Ground inasemaje kwanza?
Ground iko sawa, Emmanuel. Mambo kila kitu iko sawa. Tuko team iko sawa kabisa. Hii ni outfit ambaye inapanga tu kazi ya wananchi.
Okay. So I've seen it is a youthful team of young generation members of parliament, including Wamushomba from the other side. What is this team about?
You know, Emmanuel, you can't wait for anything to be given. You must fight for yourself. You must be a visionary leader. And the vision is to empower Kenyan citizens. The vision is to ensure that that child who has not gone to school goes to school, to push the government to its limits, to the elastic limit, to the breaking point, and to ensure that the government gives unto Kenyans what they promise. So Team Ground is not a political party. We are still in our different political parties. We are in our different political outfits. I'm still a member of ODM party and a life member for that matter. Still loyal to Baba Raila Amolo Odinga. Is still my party leader. But looking at how things are moving, there's been laxity in the opposition. So we saw the need as young members of parliament to come together and to ensure that we keep this government in check under the doctrine of separation of powers, checks and balances, which was founded in the 17th century by a gentleman called Charles Louis de Montesquieu. So in the 17th century, so we are still proceeding with that work now. So the only work is to ensure that the government does that which they promised people.
Okay. And you said that there's been some laxity in the opposition. What do you mean?
Doctors were on strike the other day, but there is nobody coming out strongly to fight for them and also to fight for the common mwananchi who are not being treated. It is not fun. It is not something to celebrate, to laugh about. When you go to the hospital, you find that doctors are not there to treat. And at the same time, it is not fun to find the doctors working and they are not being paid. The CBA, the collective bargain agreement, is not being honored by the government. So the interns, their salaries have been cut by 90%. So this is not fun at all. Doctors have not been posted for the past 1 year. They graduate, but there is no posting, there are no jobs. So what do we need to do? We need to fill in that gap. You see, right now, Baba is busy. Baba is also campaigning across Africa. Team Ground will campaign also for Baba in these different countries. We are going to call all the Congolese living in Kenya, Nigerians in Kenya, Ugandans, Tanzanians, the Sudanese citizens, the Sudan citizens who are in Kenya, to ensure that they will send them back to go and talk to their presidents to ensure that they vote for Baba. So we have to do this. We will also go talk to presidents around Africa. Personally, as Babu, I know quite a number, and I'm a friend to quite a number of presidents in Africa. Also talking to them on phone. It will not be limited also to going and visiting them and campaigning for Baba. Okay.
Yes. Which are these presidents, if you can mention a few?
If I mention that in public, Baba's opponents may run there ahead of me. But I have a great relationship with a number of presidents in Africa that You need to know that. Way from the time I was a student leader, when I was building.
When you're also a president.
When I was also a president. So it was a president knowing other presidents. But you see, some were also promising that have captured seats at the moment. And literally in Africa, we have enough connections and enough routes across Africa. Right?
Okay. So still on that opposition part, are you saying that Kalonzo Musyoka is not up to the task that he's supposed to do to take over from Baba right now?
Kalonzo has been doing his best. He's so far so good. He's really tried his best. He's done what he should do. But I'm saying that opposition leader is not an individual's work. It has to be a collective responsibility. We have the yoke of leadership, the yoke of responsibility resting on our shoulders to ensure that we deliver our people from the bondage of oppression from this defunct government, to ensure that we deliver our people from misuse, use, reuse, and abuse from this defunct government. And when we add our energy there, when we add the megalomania there, when we add the Vela there, then things will be so well for the Kenyan citizens.
And the oomph as well.
And the oomph.
All right, so Mheshimiwa, this new team, what is it setting up to do? You said you're going to organize mandamanos. How soon are you going to see you doing that?
We are going to work, because this is not an event, this is a process. Opposition work is a process. We will not be jumping just into conclusions. We will have to be sitting down and strategizing, because we are dealing with Ruto here. And when we are dealing with Ruto, we must be well prepared to handle him. So far, we can handle him, but we want to overpower him. And that is what we need to strategize well. So this team ground will go around the country, in every region, in every county, in every constituency, in every ward in this country, in every village in this country, to ensure that we put the government in check. And generally, the team ground is a movement, is not a political party. It is a movement that has just been set up by like-minded, the common voice, the voice to the voiceless, that are going to ensure that at least that which was promised, going back to what I said, is delivered. So we will tell you, we will do mandamanos if need be. If the government is planning to increase taxes, be rest assured, I'm the one who will lead that mandamano. And you know, way from the time when I was in the university, you know what I can do. Even the other day, these mandamanos, you know what I can do. So personally, at least when Baba will be campaigning, I will be taking charge of the space that is living.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you the leader of this new team?
I am one of the leaders of this team. We are different leaders. As I told you, we have equal responsibilities. But at least we are guiding each other. We are advising each other. Yes.
All right. And bringing in Wamushomba, she's been a critic of the government from the Kenya Kwanza side. What was the idea of bringing her on board?
But you see, it is not about just bringing anybody who is criticizing the government, but bringing somebody who is objective and somebody who knows that Kenyans are being oppressed by this current regime. Wamushomba subscribes to that school of thought. She belongs to that school of thought. And my learned opinion tells me that when we look at Wamushomba, she's a person who is objective, rational. She wants the best for her people. Therefore, bringing her on board means that we are going to get value for that.
Okay. And perhaps going forward, in terms of your organization and the planning, what was why did you choose the young people? What was the idea behind that?
You know, right now we have generational change. We don't need to lie to ourselves. We have so many young people, youthful people in parliament, even across the country, who have dreams, who have visions. We want to tell them that it is possible, that if Babu can come from all the way from Imbo, from Nyalenda slums to here, you can do it. That youth can do it. If Babu can head this outfit, you guys can do it. We want to tell them. The other day, a president has been elected in Senegal at 44 years old. We are late. We are late. We are late. So we need to move with speed. Yes.
Are you also angling for something bigger than your position now in future?
Definitely.
The presidency?
When it comes to issues of presidency, I always pronounce myself. People always say that, do not talk about your dreams. The Bible says that when you light your candle, do you put it under the bed? You don't put it under the bed. You put it on top of the table for everybody to see. And also, what the Bible says that what a tongue confesses shall come to happen. You and I know, Emmanuel To, that among our peers, there is nobody who's better than Babu Owino. And those are the people I'm going to vie with, to vie against when it comes to the presidential elections. So literally, I will be. The only question is, when will this happen? That is what we should ask. It is not about how or why. The question is, when? And it will happen sooner than later. And you know that the juice is what they squeeze on this side. And you know that the person who can do this better, the person who can succeed Baba, that is if Baba decides to go to AU and not come back in politics, then there are only three things that leader must have. Number one, that leader must be very intelligent, just like Baba. Number two, that leader must have the passion and the energy and the megalomania and the oomph and the valor to succeed, okay? Just like Baba. Number three, that leader must have the political acumen, just like Baba. And those three characters, they are only found in one leader who is looking at you.
Babu, Ongili.
Owino, Ongili, Paul, Tibim, his Tibimness, his Tialalaness. Babu kwa sababu, kama kuna tabu ana jawabu la ajabu kwa adabu. This is a time for generational change. Jesus Christ died for us. Jesus Christ did everything. At 33 years old, Jesus Christ had already gone to his Father. He had finished his mission. We are late, Emmanuel To. We are late.
Wow. Babu Owino, Member of Parliament for Embakasi East, speaking with a lot of oomph, valor, and razzmatazz that is oozing here.
All right, interesting times we live in, but according to Babu, it's a question of when, not if or how. It's a time for a generational takeover, and some of the takeaways include that team that is dubbed Team Kuskiza Ground or Team Ground, an alliance made up of at least 10 young lawmakers, and they point out that the opposition is a little bit relaxing. It's laxity in terms of its work right now in keeping the government in check. I'll start with you, Hasbun. Interesting times we live in. The young seem to be taking over. We know we're a majority of youth in the country. What do you make of this as we put it into the context of the succession within the ODM party and the larger Azimio coalition party?
Well, I think this is fairly interesting because there's a lot. There's ODM. If you talk about succession, you're looking at succession in ODM. If Baba was to go to African Union Commission, then you need to talk about ODM and the new leadership in ODM. Then there is Azimio, and of course there are people also thinking about the 2027 Azimio presidential candidate. And I think from where I see it, that's putting so many things together and complicating the whole thing. And let me come back to that later. Back to Team Ground. I think it's interesting what Babu is saying, and one thing you can take from Babu is the fact that he's a very intelligent young man, fairly intelligent. Kenyans have seen this during the COVID. We saw what he was doing to students who are, learning away from school. But one thing that they need to learn as Team Ground or whatever they want to call themselves, a teacher cannot come out and say that now we've come out and we want to be strong teachers. I mean, you're a teacher. That's what you're supposed to do. So members of parliament who are supposed to legislate, represent, and oversight cannot come out and say that now this is what we want to do. It is what we are paying them to do. They should do that anyway, That is one. And then secondly, they may want to look back into the history of this country. It's good to talk about what's happening in Senegal. It's not new. I mean, you go to the Scandinavian countries, we have heads of states and heads of governments in their 30s. But the issue is not the age. The issue is not even how you come out strongly and package yourself the way Babu is saying, that we are going to oppose Ruto, we will overpower him. I mean, if you ask me, that doesn't take anyone anywhere. It doesn't take you anywhere. The cause does not have to be William Ruto, the president. The cause has to be the cause of the common mwananchi in this country. And the number of people I saw in that press conference, none of them has done anything worth talking about that mwananchi can say that at least there is this thing that someone championed. Babu has been in parliament. Wamuchomba has been in parliament. Caleb Amisi has been in parliament. Can they tell us what they've championed that Kenyans can actually say that these have been our very diligent representatives? I have a lot of respect for them, but they need to revisit history. You know what happened just before the 1992 general election? There was a group of young Turks. They were not even in parliament. Okay. And the reason why they came to parliament is because of what they championed. So if this Team Ground Zero or Team Ground wants to, elevate themselves to positions where they can champion the cause of this country, they need to start by demonstrating that before they get to that position, they have what it takes that will put them in a well-poised position to make a difference in that position. I'll cite a few names. Gitobu Manyara was not even a politician. Mukisa Kitui was not a politician. Raila Odinga was not a politician. Paul Mwite was not a politician. But they supported a cause that was out to repeal Section 2A of the Kenyan Constitution back then. Okay. And one of the key things that I've had politicians who are around Jaramogi Oginga Odinga talk about was the fact that in his quest to have real change for this country, he got enough power and oomph in these young people who surrounded him. Because in the 1990s, I think Jaramogi Oginga Odinga was at the twilight of his political career and his years. So these young men and women came around and supported a cause. They did not come to oppose Moi. If anything, Moi did not even leave immediately. But they came and gave Kenyans what we are celebrating today, a repeal of Section 2A, return to multi-party democracy, and eventually a democratic space that led to Kibaki becoming the president and the change that we realize today. Okay. And probably Babu Owino and his team have that in mind. But if they think that by bringing people together in a press conference, by talking very militantly against the government of the day, they're going to rally Kenyans to believe in what they've not even articulated, they're getting it all wrong.
So in short, they're biting more than they can chew, from what you said?
I think they're biting air. You ask yourself, where exactly, what exactly do they stand for? Okay. What are they championing? What is the constituency that they're targeting with the issue that they're championing? It is difficult to tell, absolutely difficult. And when you get enough airtime on national TV, and all you can say is that we will overpower William Ruto. President William Ruto is the president of the entire country. We don't want to overpower him, even if you're in opposition or we are critiquing the government. Okay. We just need to offer constructive criticism that will help the president address the problems that are affecting Kenyans and provide opportunities for Kenyans who are looking for opportunities.
So, Dismas, from outside looking in, let's give them constructive criticism. They say an old man seated can see further than a young man standing. So let's advise the young members of parliament in terms of substance, in terms of what exactly they're articulating for. Have they gotten it right?
Well, Will has given local examples. So let me jump over and use Barack Obama and Tony Blair. Before Barack Obama ran for president, he was a community organizer, teaching at a university in Chicago, and did a lot of work, even before going to the Senate. So by the time he went to the Senate, he had a track record of success. He had a demonstrated capacity and competence. He became the president at 47. Tony Blair, before he became the prime minister, he was in charge of Labour as a political party, and he transformed Labour. Then he became a prime minister. He demonstrated capacity and competence, and that is what Will has indicated, that the fellows who were surrounding Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, in fact, demonstrated capacity and competence. So then they were given other opportunities. Now, these members are already in the National Assembly or Senate. They've been given an opportunity by Murah to serve, but they've not demonstrated that capacity and competence. Babu Owino is a very bright gentleman, as you've seen. He's very intelligent. In fact, when there was a fire crisis in his constituency, he came out and offered leadership. But when you study leadership, leadership is not a factor of birthdays. Leadership is not a factor of age. So you cannot simply become you say you want to become a president because you're talking about generational change. In any event, the current president is in his 50s. President Ruto is not 90, then you're saying that we want a generational change. No, he's a fairly young man. So there's no relationship between birthdays and leadership.
Okay.
The examples they've given of Senegal, the president today is 47, but the other president, Abdul Wade, when he became president, I think it was in his 80s. What Mora is interested is not when you were born, but have you identified the problem and are you offering the solution?
Okay.
Now, apart from Baba Wino in that team, the rest of those MPs, majority of Kenyans don't even know them. They can't tell them if they meet them in the streets. They will not offer leadership. I mean, if you're told that when you mention the name of Omshomba, top of your mind, what comes out? A rebel MP, but has she made any substantive contribution at the National Assembly? Has she made anything apart from when the party leader says, let's take this direction? She says, no, I'm driving the other way. But she doesn't give substantive reasons why she's driving the other way. So in my view, forget about your birthday. Just demonstrate capacity and competence.
Okay.
That is even what Biden is doing today.
All right.
Trump is attempting to do the same. But if you don't do that and you think that because of your birthday, then Kenyans will shock you.
Okay, so as you come in, away from the age now, power abhors vacuum. We've had that time and time again. Leadership is not given, it's taken. So I guess that's why the young legislators are trying to organize themselves in one way or the other. But one thing they say is that laxity in the opposition is present right now, perhaps due to the current times we live in, and we well understand the political landscape in the country. Will this strengthen the opposition's mandate in the country? Is it a case of divide and conquer? What do you make of it?
Yes, that's a very good question. And I'll handle that question from the political aspect and also from the Vitukwa ground, because this is team ground. So Vitukwa ground, the Kenyan is, the common citizen has no one to listen to. The common citizen is agonizing with so many things going on and with no clear place to run to, which means that there is, in my view and way of looking at it, there is no listening ear. You know, people petition, they go to court, they go to state agencies, they talk to people they consider very powerful and close to the president, but what they are saying is not what is actually happening. So they are probably looking for that voice that is going to be present, to join with them in their suffering, and probably to try to organize them around what is not very clear. Because we have a government in office, and it's a government of the day. And the government of the day is achieving whatever it wants to achieve. So the team ground wants to try and respond from what I hear the legislators or the 10 lawmakers saying, to try and organize these disorganized sort of citizens towards a certain trajectory. Now, it's not clear where we are headed to, but probably as days continue, we will be given that perspective of precisely, because Babu in his statement said so many things, doctors from Sijui, opposition and all those things. The politics of the day and the inside of the politics will not give room to what Babu is saying, because the opposition and how government is run is organized, regardless of whether we are saying there is opposition or not, because that has to be done within the premise of parliament and how parliament works. So Babu Owino and his team will not go and present themselves as a leader of minority, because you are not. But what you can do is to engage in bunge and within its standing orders and how the procedures work there, to be able to say what you want to be saying outside the organization of parliament. Yeah. So that is purely what it is. That yes, we can help the citizens to organize. And we've seen very many people, including Eric Omondi, who is always trying to respond to bridges that are broken, hawkers that are being beaten up left, right, and center, even trying to rally Kenyans, to contribute resources to buy people drugs and all that. And that's just one example. There's thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Kenyans doing it in their own ways without necessarily going to social media and recording what they are doing. And so Babu and his team, I think, are very clear around what they want to achieve, and knowing who Babu is, chances that he will succeed are very high. And he's actually positioning himself, as he's given us a local example, he's given us an international example. The spaces, the haters are very, very many. upon the exit of Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga, there are people who are going to be displaced. They are going to be winners and losers. And on this one, Babu Owino, I am sure that he is positioning himself as one of the winners. And if you look at even within the ODM party, how that organizing is done, and I think for the first time, we have had Mama Ida Odinga coming even to speak in the favor of Mheshimiwa Mbadi and saying in the event Baba leaves, then we foresee that Mbadi, and she's actually tried to prop Mbadi as the next heir of ODM and all those things. Now, if you look at that in the premise of how opposition is being done against Vitu Kwa ground, then Babu and his other colleagues are saying, we know that the party is considering this way, but we want to be with the citizens. Because probably they are saying, the party has not spoken for the people that took us to go and speak for them. And so I think that is probably where Babu Owino and his members, including even Mheshimiwa Alice Wamuchomba, given what's happening in Mount Kenya, we began this segment talking about kahawa and taxation. And so they have the opinion that somebody should be listening and addressing these concerns. But why are people that are considered to be in power and with the capacity and the ability to respond to these issues not doing it? So they more or less want to organize to fill certain vacuums to appease the common citizen, to respond to what Vitu Kwa ground is.
30 seconds or so. Will this power play disseminate the current political formations we have? Speak of Azimio, there are those who say it might not make it till 2027. ODM is Baba and Baba is ODM, though party members say it has party structures, but there are those who think the party leader is quite influential within it, that when he exits, it will be left in disarray. Briefly.
You know, I mean, Raila Odinga is a politician who has packaged himself. From, you know, the Raila who used to go to detention, to Raila, an opposition leader, to Raila, leader of Luo political parties in NDP, to Raila who built a national political party in LDP, to Raila who built one of the most consequential parties in any democracy that you can talk of in this world, in ODM. So you cannot talk about Raila being replaced at ODM, at Azimio as the opposition leader without talking about many people. Yeah. So no one person is going to do that. Okay. But let me talk about ODM. Briefly, you know, what Raila has built ODM to be, basically, and this is my personal opinion, basically means that if there is any succession in ODM, if you are a Westerner, if you are a Luo, and you're given the leadership of that party, you reduce that party to what Ford Kenya is, a tribal political party. And I don't think Raila, with his knowledge and the people around Raila who have contributed to make ODM what it is today, would want to do that to ODM. The Luo constituency that is part and parcel of ODM, whether ODM is headed by a non-Luo or not, will still be there courtesy of Raila, because Raila is not going anywhere. So ODM has to be very strategic to ensure that ODM remains the consequential party that it is. And it is sad to say that whether it is Mbadi, Babu Owino, or whoever, so long as you are Luo or you are a Westerner, I think you reduce that party to what we don't want it to be.
Okay, so the big issue would be maintaining that national face and that national appeal. Allow us to take a short break. When we come back, we shift focus to matters that have played out in Trans Nzoia County. And it has been heated, mind you. We've seen the governor, George Natembeya, go head-to-head with the National Assembly Speaker, Moses Wetangula, who, if you ask some, is a de facto kingpin of the Western region. That coming up. Do stay with us. You're watching Inside Politics.